Hello, everybody. It's Daniel here, and welcome to Emotional English Podcast, the podcast about English learning, where we speak English effortlessly, emotionally, filled with energy, and of course, positively. Welcome, everybody. So I had finished my first program in Sheridar with teenagers, and on Friday, I'm going to the next program. That's why my podcasts are not coming up very frequently, right? But it's a little break for myself, and I'll post more podcast episodes very soon. From 16th of October, I will have come back home and we'll post more episodes for you guys. But for now, let's have what we have, and I want to say a couple words about our previous event. We had a very cool time in Terra Anti Cafe on the 28th of September. We had met a lot of good people there. We had experienced our language practice, and it was amazing. Thank you all for the participation. And today I have prepared another great topic for you guys. It's the topic about police help ducks. Today's discussion is about news in levels. That's the website I'm using today. And we discussed the story. We discussed the story which had happened in Russia not so long time ago. I guess it was in during the coronavirus time, right? And it's the story in which Russian police had helped a family of ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. And as usual, I will read the story, the whole story first, and then I will comment each paragraph with my comments, and we will revise some new vocabulary here, and I hope it would be pretty useful for you guys, for your learning, for your activity in English. So, the police help ducks. I'm using the level 3, the hardest part, and I think it will make sense, right, for our listeners. So let's see what we have, and let's comment all together. So a Russian police car helped a family of ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. It's the first paragraph, the smallest one. So you know what is a police car, right? That's a Russian police car, and the car had stopped and helped a family of ducks. Who are ducks? Ducks are birds, beautiful birds. They live next to different lakes, I guess, or ponds. And the group of ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. When you're crossing something, you have a one side of the road and another side of the road, right? And you can cross the road from one side to another, right? And there was a Russian police car, and this Russian police car helped a family of ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. We got that, right? The second paragraph, the paragraph number 2. Passers-by also assisted in stopping the traffic and guiding the couple and their 12 ducklings to safety. All drivers waited patiently for the ducks to waddle across the street. The ducks made it to the other side of the road and then to their destination, a nearby park. So that's the second paragraph. Let's go now step by step with the commenting of each statement or the new word. So the first word which I've said, which I saw here, it was the passers-by. Passers-by, right? It's Passersby. Passers-by. Passers-by, it's a person who happens to be going past something, especially on foot or by car, right? So we saw a Russian police car. And the Russian police car passed by a family of ducks, right? But then the Russian police car had stopped, and the passers-by, the policemen, they assisted in stopping the traffic. They started to work on stopping the traffic. Why have they stopped the traffic? Just to help the ducks. They had stopped the traffic to help the ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. So you call these people, the people who pass by, passers-by, right? Passers-by, the people who were passing by the street, and then they had stopped and they had started to do something, right? So these people are passers-by. Passers-by also assisted in stopping the traffic. We got that. So the police people started to assist stopping the traffic, and they guided the couple of ducks and their 12 ducklings to safety. Who are ducks and who are ducklings? So ducks, it's the let's say the big ducks, right? They are adults already. But ducklings, they're small kids, right? Like a kid's ducks, right? So they are small and you call them duckling. So one duckling, many ducklings. We had two, let's say big ducks and 12 ducklings. So, and these passersby, they helped these ducks and ducklings to pass or to cross a busy street. What happened next? All drivers waited patiently for the ducks to waddle across the street. Another word interesting here is waddling or to waddle. When you're waddling, you're moving very slowly, step by step. And if you look at the duck, just look at it. You will see a very short legs, right? And when the very short-legged duck trying to cross the street, it's not walking there, right? It walking with a very short steps, right? And you call it waddle, 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 right? Waddling. So when you crossing the street with a very short steps, you are waddling. That's what had happened in our story. All drivers waited very patiently. So they were not fighting. They were not screaming at each other. So they were patiently waiting for the ducks. Why they were waiting for so long? Because ducks, they have very short legs and they made very short steps. They were waddling across the street. They were not walking across the street. They were waddling, waddle, 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 waddle across the street because the steps of ducks are very, very short, right? We got that. The ducks made it to the other side of the road and then to their destination, a nearby park. So the ducks made it or the ducks didn't make it? Yes, the ducks made it. They waddled across the street and they reached their destination. And what was their destination? Their last destination, right, their planned destination was a nearby park because these ducks, they probably lives there. They live in this nearby park, right? Who lived there? 2 big ducks and 12 ducklings. They lived in the nearby park. Here we go. I will read this whole paragraph to revise the whole thing. Passers-by also assisted in stopping the traffic and guiding the couple and their 12 ducklings to safety. All drivers waited patiently for the ducks to waddle across the street. The ducks made it to the other side of the road and then to their destination, a nearby park. Okay? So we have a story. The story about police and ducks and ducklings. And they were helping each other. So police were passers-by. They were helping our ducks to go across the street. And the ducks, they had a very short legs. They were not walking. they were waddling across the street. We got it. And they reached the final destination, their nearby park. But it's not all. We have one more paragraph about just a review about the wildlife. So the wildlife, such as ducks and swans, live in ponds and lakes, and they usually rely on feeding by the public. Currently, they are being left to go hungry because of the coronavirus lockdown, and some of them are at risk of starvation. Yes, we have, mentioned here the coronavirus lockdown, right? So that story is from the coronavirus time, right? As we see. So during the coronavirus, ducks had many troubles, right? Because the ducks who lived in the park, they didn't get enough food because people stayed at home. They didn't go to the park. And they didn't feed our ducks, our swans. By the way, do you know what's the difference between swans and ducks? Swans are birds as well. They're big, beautiful, white color or black colored birds, and they look amazing. Ducks are smaller, much smaller than swans, and the swans, they have a beautiful long neck, and they look amazing. I really love them. And, I live in Garachi, Cluj, and we have a beautiful lake there. And it's called Swans Lake. Swans Lake, because many swans come to our lake every year and stays there for a while. That's what happens in my city. So, again, let's go and discuss this paragraph step by step about the wildlife. Wildlife such as ducks and swans live in ponds and lakes, and they usually rely on feeding by the public. What does it mean when you rely on something? So our birds, like ducks and swans, they rely on feeding by the public. So it means people feed them, people give them food, and they rely on them. They rely on feeding by the public. So they cannot survive without people, without publicity. So the public, feed our ducks and swans, and swans and ducks rely on them. You can use this phrase, rely on, talking of your friends, right? So many people, they rely on their friends. You can trust them, and if you need help, you can rely on your friend, because the friend will help you with your trouble, right? Friends help you with your trouble, and that's why you can rely on them. I can rely on my hotel, the place where I stay right now, because it's a trustworthy place. I can rely on it. I can rely on people I know. I can rely on you guys. I can rely on my listeners. I can rely on you because I know that you are interested in the content, and I know why I'm doing my job as a teacher. So I rely on you. I remember that you need this foundation of language learning. This community is important for us, and we can rely on it. We can trust each other, and I can kind of holding your shoulder, right? Knowing that you need and you listen to my podcast, you're liking it, you're subscribing on it, and that makes my life a little bit more joyful. So I can rely on you, you can rely on me, and we can rely on each other. So we can trust each other for sure. We can hold our shoulder. So, and the swans and the ducks, they rely on feeding by the public because they need food, and the people provide food and feed the birds. So the next sentence, currently they are being left to go hungry because of the coronavirus lockdown, and some of them are at risk of starvation. So beautiful word, starvation. Starvation, it's a word about lacking of food. When you have a lack of food, you are starving. You want to eat so much. And the problem or problematic state of lack of food is starvation. And many people, they have a starvation problems, right? Starvation problem, it's a problem related to the lack of food. No food, you have starvation. You have enough food, no starvation anymore. So the lack of starvation problem, it's good too. So talking of coronavirus lockdown, why ducks and swans had a big starvation problem or the risk of starvation? Because we had a minimum amount of people who were going to the park and nobody was feeding our ducks and swans. That's why ducks and swans had a big problem of starvation or the risk of starvation. And you remember that our ducks and swans, they rely on feeding by the public. And during the coronavirus, people were staying home and our beautiful ducks and swans were very hungry. And they had a very big risk of starvation and a very big risk of death of starvation. It's very dangerous. Yes, eat healthy and you will avoid the starvation. So if you have a lack of food, you're starving. When you have enough food, you're not starving anymore. Who have a problem of starvation in the world, guys? Africa has a problem of starvation. They are at risk of dying because of starvation. So due to starvation, many people die, right? And that's very sad. Okay, that's a third paragraph. I will read the paragraph one more time for the revision, and then we will discuss the whole paragraph in a raw. So wildlife, such as ducks and swans, live in ponds and lakes, and they usually rely on feeding by the public. Currently, they are being left to go hungry because of coronavirus lockdown, and some of them are at risk of starvation. Here you go. Who was at risk of starvation? Yeah, there were ducks and swans, right? They were at risk of starvation. Why ducks and swans were at the risk of starvation? Because ducks and swans, they actually relied on feeding by the public. And during the coronavirus lockdown, there were not enough people who were going to the park and feeding them. That's why they were at risk of starvation. Okay, but talking of our story, do you remember who helped the ducks cross a busy street in Moscow? Yes, the Russian police car. The Russian police car helped the family of ducks cross a busy street in Moscow. How do you call this Russian police car? Yeah, they were passersby, right? So they assisted in stopping the traffic and guided the couple of ducks and their 12 ducklings to safety, right? And actually, the drivers were very kind. They waited patiently, and while the ducks were waddling across the street. And the ducks made it to the other side of the road, and they reached their destination, a nearby park. But, generally speaking, so wildlife such as ducks and swans, they live in ponds and lakes. So what is pond? Pond, it's a place with water, right? A fake lake. So the pond. And lakes, it's the location where our natural ducks and swans live naturally. And they usually rely, swans and ducks rely on feeding by the public. And currently, not currently, but they were being left to go hungry because of coronavirus lockdown, and some of them were at risk of starvation. That's a story, guys. So we discussed the story today about the police help ducks, and I hope it was pretty positive and nice. So we discussed the vocabulary with you about passersby, waddle or waddling, and we discussed the starvation topic. So I hope it was useful. And I hope you would learn English effectively, step by step, with joy and full of emotions. So if you guys are interested, you can come to my online and offline events. You can visit the website www.emotionalenglish.ru to check the upcoming events. Very soon, in the end of October, I will post all the upcoming events there, and we will see the whole events let's say the closest ones until the end of the year. And I want to make the schedule every half of the year. And it's for your convenience, for your usefulness. So you can go to the website and check the upcoming events and meetings of our community online and offline. So thank you all to being with me today, and I hope you have an amazing day. See you very soon and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.